that most of our armoured vehicles are now effectively obsolescent. In layman's terms, they can barely pass their MOT now. This was meant to be one of the new replacement vehicles. The programme has been running for 12 years at a time when people are experiencing, a pinch in the cost of living, to put it mildly. The MOD has spent £3.2 billion on a tank that doesn't even work properly. And what we're saying on the Public Accounts Committee, which is a cross-party committee, is enough is enough. By Christmas, either fix the problems or scrap it, admit defeat, and buy something else.
The Army's light tank programme has gone badly wrong and must be fixed or scrapped. The warnings come from MPs on the Public Accounts Committee. They've been looking at the Ajax armoured vehicles modernisation programme. There have been years-long delays and no tanks have actually been delivered despite a cost of £3 billion. Conservative MP Mark Francois is a committee member. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
What disadvantage then are we at as a result of the failure of this light tank programme?
Well, we're at a major disadvantage. There's a war going on in the Ukraine now as we speak. And the British Army's, most of its armoured vehicles are now... Hello?
Hi there, Mark. Can you still hear us?
Yes, sorry.
Yes, absolutely. You would just carry on.
Right. Yeah, the problem is that most of our armoured vehicles are now effectively obsolescent. In layman's terms, they can barely pass their MOT now. This was meant to be one of the new replacement vehicles. The programme has been running for 12 years at a time when people are experiencing, a pinch in the cost of living, to put it mildly. The MOD has spent £3.2 billion on a tank that doesn't even work properly. And what we're saying on the Public Accounts Committee, which is a cross-party committee, is enough is enough. By Christmas, either fix the problems or scrap it, admit defeat, and buy something else. What they cannot do is keep kicking the can down the road.
Jeremy Quinn is the Defence Procurement Minister. He told The Times last month that Ajax, quote, remains a troubled programme, but we are persevering. We really want this to work. Have you had any indication so far from Mr Quinn, or indeed from the MOD, anyone involved in this, that your Christmas deadline is realistic and they're going to stick to that?
Well, that's ultimately down to the MOD. I mean, the programme is so troubled that the Defence Secretary, Ben Wallace, has now brought in a QC to conduct an independent investigation on whether or not, in simple terms, ministers were misled by the procurement bureaucracy. In my experience, and I was an armed forces minister a few years ago, this is unprecedented. This is a Secretary of State bringing in a QC to find out if he was lied to, and if so, by whom. So this is an extremely troubled programme. And you have to see it in a wider context, which is because the Public Accounts Committee concluded last autumn that the UK's defence procurement system is, and we use the word deliberately, is broken. It's far too bureaucratic, it's far too ponderous, it takes far too long, and our armed forces need the best possible kit for the defence of the realm and to meet our commitments to NATO. Let's put it bluntly, we're not going to deter further Russian aggression beyond the Ukraine, say into the Baltic states or Poland, with a tank that doesn't work. So we have commitments to our NATO allies. We've got to reform the whole way that we do defence procurement in the United Kingdom. And Ajax is a glaring example of why the system is broken. The committee said in its report that just about everything that could go wrong with this programme did go wrong. Ultimately, this equipment is not there to look good on the parade ground. It's there, if it comes to it, if deterrence were to fail, to fight. And you cannot fight a battle successfully with a tank that actually injures its own crew. 4 members of the army have been discharged with hearing problems because of injuries they sustained during the trials on Ajax. That's why, after this whole litany of failure, the committee used the words, enough is enough.
Enough is enough, indeed. Speaking of which, Mr Francois, I'm wondering when your letter of no confidence is going into Sir Graham Brady of the 1922 committee.
To be clear, I have not submitted a letter of no confidence to Sir Graham Brady. Only Sir Graham knows how many letters he's got. He once famously said to a journalist, "I don't even tell my wife how many letters I've got, so I'm not going to tell you." So I have not submitted a letter, but what I will say is that I did find the Gray report deeply disturbing, and what I want to know is who is going to be held to account for this, because so far it seems to me no one in number 10 has actually taken responsibility for what went wrong. And when the House of Commons comes back next week, I suspect a lot of other MPs are going to ask the question, who is going to take responsibility for this?
Is that an implication from you then that things are kind of on pause for the Jubilee weekend, perhaps understandably, but when you return next week, you'll really be pressuring the Prime Minister to step up and hold someone accountable, perhaps even himself?
Well, I can't speak for the entire Conservative Parliamentary Party.
You.
I wouldn't presume to do that. But having spoken, informally to colleagues in the last few days, I sense that the mood is they want to know who is going to carry the can, because something clearly went badly wrong in number 10. There was a very bad culture during a national lockdown. And I think a lot of colleagues want to know who is going to be held accountable for this. And so far, we haven't really been told. And I particularly want the answer to that question.
Yeah.
And I suspect so do a lot of my colleagues as well.
And just a final one, Mark, if I may. Are you hearing the engines revving for a leadership contest? Are there people waiting in the wings to begin campaigns to once Boris Johnson, or indeed if Boris Johnson is shuffled out the door?
Look, I don't know whether the engine is revving or not. What I can tell you is the engine is not revving on Ajax. And what the Public Accounts Committee have said, to finish where I came in, if you forgive me, because I'm speaking for the committee this morning, we cannot allow this programme to go on. It's gone on for 12 years. We spent £3.2 billion of taxpayers' money, and so far, effectively, in terms of a deployable vehicle, we've got nothing to show for it. The MOD have got to take a decision by Christmas, either fix it or fail it, one or the other. The ball is in their court.
Mark Francois, thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mark Francois is a Conservative MP and indeed a member of the Public Accounts Committee.